Hey y'all, it's Gord here, your hurtin' hippie with Weedy Weekend number 88. Yeah, the news show where I bring you what you brought me. I do like this. It's a smaller one today, but that's what I do. You guys share with me the stories you want to hear, and every Sunday I repeat them out to everybody else who wants to hear them too. I hope you enjoy this one, and we'll work on making them better as we go along. My friends, first story today. First story. And today, no kid with me, so there may be the odd toke. Hard to say. This is just CBD, and I wouldn't say just. It's my new go to. Peace and cheers. Now, our first story of the day is one that I really enjoy talking about because people just naturally expect a certain outcome out of certain logical thoughts when they aren't. I'll explain. This story says, and it's from weednews.co, once again, marijuana positive drivers show no signs of impairment. It's a bad title because I read through the article and there were signs of impairment. There were signs of difficulty. But what it's trying to say is the impairment that gets recorded when tests are done for drivers' efficacy while high are the tests are being done incorrectly. Let me explain that they are testing according to an observing drug recognition expert, come on, that's something somebody made up, a police officer, once she had reached 56 nanograms of active THC per milliliter of blood. Nanograms per milliliter of blood. That's what I wanted to talk about. You all can read this story, get from it what you want, take from it what you will, glean from it what you must. But if you take anything away, the old way of testing for alcohol, checking your blood, checking your breath, those kind of things to find out how much alcohol is in your system, those work. Those do not just lend themselves to a totally different category of euphoric intake. I myself, you could test me right now according to some of the rules that they're starting to put out there for impaired driving under drugs. They could test me right now and I would test as impaired. I have not smoked any THC today. I've had a couple of tokes of CBD and my CBD pill. But because I am a daily user for years and years, chronic user some of them call, but I think chronic lends to negative. There's nothing negative about daily use, and we'll get to that. I will always test high in my nanograms of active THC in my blood. Yes, as time goes on, the activeness of that THC goes down. So does the amount in my blood, but not necessarily. Not if I'm toking regularly every day. Yes, after a few days if I quit. But I never do. I can't. My pain's too high. So that's what I want you to glean from this story is what they found is if you drive immediately, what this study did show is that if you drive immediately after toking, you will have difficulties because your mind's racing, the THC is just settling in your system, that kind of stuff. They also noticed that older drivers slow down after they've had some, younger drivers speed up after they've had some. So what does this say to you? I know what it says to me. So much more testing required and other methods of finding out, as well shouldn't we as a society, since they have pretty well perfected the self-driving vehicle, is stop letting people drive? Period. We're impaired when we're angry. We're impaired if we're driving while we're sad. Just the other day, I pulled up beside a vehicle. There was a girl in there. She was bawling her eyes out, screaming on the phone that was on her dash, and the tears were just rolling. The mascara was everywhere. That girl is more impaired than anybody who's smoked a bit. So there's many ways of impairment. Driving is an unsafe thing, except when handled by computers. Computers know what to do, know how to respond. It's already been proved they are safer than the human at doing driving. So let's move to that, and then it doesn't matter if you're impaired or not. The car's doing the job, not you. We shouldn't have. Since we have the ability to take that dangerous duty off of the person and put it back onto the machine, I say we do it. I'm not against all that, but it may spur some comments below. But wow, 6 minutes on the first item. Peace and cheers. We will cheers to that. You know what? We're going to cheers to it with Snow Lotus. I almost have none left, but it's one of my favorites. MMJ carries it, and boy, oh boy, it's as strong as Jedi Kush. It is so nice, and it makes you smile. And you know what? Today's a day where my son went home yesterday to his mom after 3 days with me, some kind of spring break, and we had so much fun that I always have a little bit of down after he's gone. This helps me not get into the muck. Depression is so cyclical. And I'm about mid-range right now where I can fall back into a depression because I have a lot of busy stuff coming up. Or I can just look forward to this busy stuff that's coming up and do a better job. This helps me think about that. And I'll say, even though CBD is very expensive and I've been trying to wean myself, take less and less and do better and better, I took no CBD this morning and it didn't take long and I was starting to dip into that depressive mode because all these memories and my PTSD issues started surfacing. Took that CBD pill just a little over an hour and a half ago, and I wasn't going to take it today because the prices went up on them again. But I did, and I'm better, and I'll get better even so. If I have to find a way to pay for the CBD, even if it means a decrease in THC, CBD is working for me. The next story is Colorado's marijuana industry is now bigger than some countries' entire GDP, gross domestic product. That is pretty amazing when one product in one state can produce, I'll say, impressive as Colorado's $1.3 billion market might seem. It's a pittance compared to the $53 billion that consumers in North America are believed to have spent on the drug in 2016, because most of the high 87% of that amount of money went into the illegal market. So yeah, it's a good story because Colorado and other places have bit into that illegal market, and it's not gone in Colorado, but it's impressively overtaken by a legal market that's slowly becoming more and more efficient and able to supply wonderful things to benefit the public health and public safety of people in Colorado. Is it being done correctly? No. We're nowhere near correct for medical and or recreational. But every step is a step forward, it seems. Once in a while, they take a few steps back in these legalized places. But the grassroots industry continues to push more realism, more fact-based decision making. I think it's big, I think it's important, and we'll continue to use Colorado as a center, even though they're, as I said, making some mistakes. That conversation can continue down below. Our next one is, I gotta go back up to, marijuana, cannabis under a microscope. This is a really good story, just with some really up-close photography and links to other places. I've done, if you look at my strain reviews, I have a microscope. I do some microscopic pictures of the trichomes. This goes even further into electron microscopes. So there's some really cool pictures, a really good story. There's some things I learned about trichomes. I did not know that there were two kinds, the long lanky ones and the short flat ones. So there's interesting things to learn out of this story. And sometimes it's just nice. It's such a beautiful plant. It really is. Those of you who haven't looked at it close, look at it close. You'll see. You'll see. I love this plant. I love everything about it. And it's absolutely incredible in this story. You gotta click the read more. It's one of those, you gotta click the read more. But it's absolutely amazing how some of this photography is done, and I would love to get a microscope that's even better. Next is a fun one from High Times. High Times has done a recollection of the strongest strains on earth for last year. And last year was the first time they broke 30% THC. Now, the reason I bring this to you is for 3 points. First point is just, it's a cool article. You can see how THC is becoming pure and pure within the plant, being grown better and better. That's a good thing. Purity of medicine, abundance of medicine, you need less. You even need less yield from the plants because the plants produce more of the actual chemical. So I think it's a wonderful direction to go. Second reason is because people rely too much on THC, and this opens a segue for me to talk about what is strong THC. What's important about strong THC? Because I am the live chat on a website for medical users. On there, so often I get asked, please recommend the highest THC plant that your dispensary can, it's not mine, that your store can offer. And I'll say, why? Well, because I'm in a lot of pain and I really need something strong. That's something I want to talk about, and I've talked about it many times. Because you're in a lot of pain, you need something that's very good for your pain. Once you find what's good for your pain, then yes, if you find 3 or 4 strains that speak to your pain properly, for instance, like a purple ice. Purple ice is a hybrid that leans to the sativa end, so it can produce a lot of energy and a lot of good mood, while the purple and indica end of it, I believe it's purple kush, the purple end of it is slightly high in CBD, might even have THCV in it, and will be very, very good for inflammation as well as pain. So let's say you find 3 or 4 that meet the needs of your pain. That's when, as a secondary thought, okay, out of those 4, which is the strongest? Which has the highest THC and CBD, CBC, CBG? Let's learn these things. Then the percentages matter. What matters most is the strain fitting your pain at that time. If you only find one, then its THC component, say it's 15%, tells you how much you're dosing. That's what the THC percentage should be telling you. Only when you have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 strains that all meet the needs of your pain, then yes, go for the highest THC, as long as the other components are there too. Go for the higher THC because you'll use less of the medicine to get more of the desired effect. So yes, high THC is really important, and we should be striving for the 30s and 40s and 50% out of a plant, so we can get pure out of distillate and other things, so that then they can start working on having pure THC, THCV, THCA, CBN, CBG, CBD, CBC, all these different terpenes, and then start testing mixes for certain ailments. We're going to get to a place that the strain will not matter, because pure chemicals will be drawn from whatever plant, and then those chemicals will be mixed according to your pain, not according to the way a plant grew. The plant was our first blueprint of how to better look after ourselves. Now we need to take it that step further. Get it off of Schedule 1 so that more work can be done around there. I did say there was a third reason that I brought this article to you, The Strongest Strains on Earth 2016, is because way down at the bottom they have a CBD list. A list of the highest CBD strains. And Cannatonic has hit during the Michigan Cup, actually 2015 Cannabis Cup, a plant, Cannatonic, that was 20.8% CBD and 0.8% THC. That's a 20-to-1 plant. I didn't even know it was possible. It's amazing how that's going. I would personally buy that. If MMJ carried a Cannatonic at that level, I would buy it. Why? Because very strong CBD is something that I want. But the pills that I take that are CBD pure are getting more and more expensive and more difficult to find. So a great plant would be better. That's why I brought the third one to you, is take a look way down at the bottom. It's amazing where we're getting with plant management and being able to produce high amounts of these plants. See, because I'll tell you, CBD really helps with PTSD, but what helps even more with anxiety and PTSD and memories and difficulties in the brain is CBC. But CBC is very hard to find in a plant, and when found is in minuscule. So if they can also start growing better CBC plants, then we can start producing CBC as a separate, pillable, edible, patchable form. So many things come into this industry and health area. Two sides. The next story. You can tell I'm a little anxious today. I've got a high anxiety day. The next one, medicalsecrets.com, brings about a story called Study Finds That Lifelong Marijuana Users Are Healthy. I've brought a few studies like this lately. Is the more they start separating out the things that make us sick, the more they find that this plant not only doesn't make us sick, but it actually improves our health over time through chronic daily use. It's a really good story. I will read this one part of it. This means while choosing to smoke cannabis as a preferred method of consumption may bring about some oral health problems over an extended period of time, brackets, researchers notice this happening to people between the age of 26 and 38, and it talks about gum disease. There is no evidence to suggest that smoking weed on a regular basis, even if that means decades of daily use, has the potential to sabotage one's health in a similar manner to that long-term use of tobacco. Very good to know. So often they said, if you're smoking, it's hurting you. Well, it's not so badly. I still do recommend to anybody get into more edibles and more vaping, especially oils. Get into the purity, and you take away the damage that the method is causing you, not the plant. The method, burning plant material and breathing that in, causes some damage. What you're breathing in also corrects that damage, but if that damage wasn't there, it could just build your lungs better, build your body better, build your bones better. CBC, CBD. That's that story. Bringing us to the last one, which isn't much of a story. I'll put it below, but it links to a video that speaks of a person who has this problem. It's all about the tainted pot and the health recalls, Health Canada recalls. Organigram and a few others have it. For those of you who need the background story, many of the licensed producers have been found to have had to recall pot because it was grown with banned pesticides in their own place, or they bought it from another LP who grew it that way. Doesn't matter. Looks like testing doesn't bring about the results until much later. And because of it, some people have gotten sick. And it talks about the class action lawsuits that are coming forward. And it talks about Health Canada, because of these recalls, is now going to do spot checks. I brought to you last week that they were not at all testing. They were relying on the LPs to do tests that they hadn't even been regulated to do. So now they have come forward and said, okay, we're going to spot check these LPs to make sure that they are testing and that they are finding and that they are correcting. Spot checks is not the way to go, but at least it's better than leaving them on their own. I still say this whole thing brings about the need for the dispensary. Somebody said to me, well, is there any proof in dispensaries being able, where's their testing and where's their requirements? And I say, when you're an LP, this has been proved just by this latest tainted pot problem, is the LPs have the government backing them, period, on their sales. In fact, breaking our own human rights of purchase, basic Canadian rights to perform commerce with whomever we want on a legal product, they are limiting those rights to push us to buy from LPs, so the LPs are protected, so their growers are protected. So what becomes necessary? To get as much yield as possible and as little damage as possible. That brings about the requirements for pesticides and germ control and all these non-organic methods. In the dispensary model, the only thing driving the product is the consumer. If the product's bad, the consumer goes elsewhere. They will pick a different dispensary. I know, I see it happen all the time. Bad product, even if a little bit sick, they aren't even going to wait to say, hey, did you test this? They're just not going to buy from that dispensary again. So these dispensaries have their own internal testing and insurance on organicness of an organic product and the proper testing on non-organic products. Because if they make a mistake, they lose money. We've already seen that the LPs, they make a mistake, they get the government back and saying, oh, you guys, you were bad, fix it, and we'll check once in a while. When a market is driven by the consumer, not the government, comes much higher quality and less profit. Government gets in control of a monopoly like they have here, becomes lower quality, more profit, not consumer driven, not at all patient driven. So we need to, if anything, this tells us we need to fight more for the dispensary model and our right of purchase, our right of commerce. It's a legal product medically so far. And someday it's going to be a legal product recreationally too. Our rights under the Charter of Canadian Rights and Freedoms states that we have the right to do commerce with anybody we choose on legal products. So this protection of an industry by the government creates a monopoly that we should be fighting against. I did not think I could make 5 stories last my half hour, but here we are close to the half hour mark. We're at the end of Weedy Weekend. 88. I'm so happy for that. So peace and cheers, my friend. Love and harmony. Find people without a smile and give them one of yours. They need it. Life is rough. Life is rough for everybody. Let's see if we can make it better just by smiling at people and passing love around. Passing good stories like this around. Instead of the rotten crap we see in the news, I don't watch the news. Peace and cheers, my friends. Love and harmony.